The 25 Curiosities of the Angels. Number 25. The Protective Mantle of the Angels. In many popular prayers, especially those dedicated to the guardian angel, reference is made to a cloak or wings that surround the believer, protecting him from physical and spiritual dangers. These poetic expressions have their roots in the Psalms, where divine protection is spoken of in terms of shelter under the wings of the Almighty. Over the centuries, the liturgy and popular devotion associated this image directly with angels, embodying in a more tangible way the closeness and protection of heaven. The symbolism of wings dates back to ancient times, when birds were seen as messengers between the world above and earth, due to their ability to fly. By attributing wings to angels, their intermediary nature and their speed in moving or coming to the aid of the faithful is emphasized. In this sense, the angelic cloak expresses the idea of total protection, which not only protects against evil, but also provides comfort in the face of loneliness or uncertainty. Thus, the image of the angelic wings or mantle endures as a compassionate and serene gesture that affirms that, beyond the difficulties, there is always a divine refuge available. Number 24. Fallen Angels in the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text of Jewish origin, describes the story of the Watchers, angels who came down to earth and joined with human women, giving birth to the Nephilim, a race of giants. According to this account, these angels imparted forbidden knowledge to humanity, such as the forging of weapons and magical arts, causing the corruption of society. Ultimately, their behavior led to divine wrath, resulting in their punishment and the Great Flood. This version of the fall of the angels differs from the narrative about Lucifer in the Christian tradition, although both express the idea of a rebellion against the divine order. The story of the Watchers raises multiple theological and anthropological questions. How can beings created for purity and obedience succumb to earthly passions? What role did this forbidden teaching play in the advancement or degradation of humanity? Although the Book of Enoch was not included in the Western biblical canon, it exerted a profound influence on rabbinical, Christian, and later literature. Its vision of angels transgressing boundaries and engendering hybrids fueled esoteric interpretations and theories about vestiges of ancient civilizations, contributing to the enduring fascination with the figure of the fallen angel. Number 23. Belief in orbs of light. In New Age culture and in certain paranormal investigations, the term orbs of light became popular to describe strange luminous spheres that appear in photographs or are detected in environments where there is supposedly spiritual activity. To skeptics, most of these orbs are simply specks of dust, lens reflections, or moisture particles that generate optical effects. However, there are those who maintain that, in certain contexts, the presence of orbs of light coincides with important emotional events or spiritual rituals, thus associating them with angelic manifestations or the presence of disembodied beings. This interpretation is in line with the idea that angels can manifest themselves as pure energy, visible only under certain conditions of sensitivity or through recording equipment that captures unusual frequencies. The defenders of this theory point to events in which the orbs seem to move intentionally or react to music and prayer. Although there is no conclusive scientific evidence, the debate continues to live on in forums and communities of paranormal research, reflecting the constant search for tangible signs of the invisible and the protective company that many associate with angels. Number 22. Angels in the defense of cities. Throughout history, Various local stories have attributed to angels or saints with angelic attributes the liberation of besieged cities or miraculous protection from catastrophes. One of the best-known cases is that of Saint Michael the Archangel and the castle of Sant'Angelo in Rome. According to legend, the archangel appeared during a plague in the 6th century, announcing the end of the epidemic and manifesting his presence over the fortress. Since then, he has been venerated as a divine defender, with processions and celebrations being held in his honor. Similar events are recorded in popular traditions in different places. Cities that claim to have been saved from invasions, fires, or earthquakes thanks to the intervention of a guardian angel. For the faithful, these stories reaffirm the belief that heavenly protection not only acts on an individual level, but also on entire communities, especially when there is unity in prayer and devotion. Beyond historical accuracy, the rooting of these stories in the collective memory shows the human need to recognize a transcendent force that watches over the common good and prevents mass destruction in critical moments. Number 21. The 4 living creatures of the Apocalypse. In the book of Revelation, the Apostle John describes a vision of the throne of God surrounded by 4 living creatures full of eyes, each with a different face: a lion, a bull, a man, and an eagle. Although they are not explicitly called angels, many interpreters associate them with the angelic hierarchies due to their role of perpetual worship and their proximity to the divine throne. Some theologians relate these 4 creatures to the so-called cherubim described in the book of Ezekiel, which also have zoomorphic facets and multiple wings. The symbolism of these living creatures is vast. The lion usually represents royalty or courage, the bull strength and industriousness, man intelligence and reason, and the eagle spiritual elevation. In later Christian tradition, a parallel has been made with the 4 Gospels, attributing to each of these faces a sacred author. Regardless of their exact interpretation, the presence of these beings enhances the majestic and mysterious character of the heavenly court, where the contemplation of God is mixed with an overwhelming force that transcends all merely human forms. Number 20. Angels in pre-Columbian mythology. Although the pre-Columbian cultures of America did not use the term angel in their cosmology, many of them had the figure of winged messengers or intermediaries between the gods and humans. In Mayan mythology, for example, there is talk of divine entities with the appearance of birds that brought prophetic messages or blessings from the higher gods. Something similar can be found in the Aztec pantheon, where minor gods or spirits associated with wind and rain also fulfilled the function of connecting the earthly plane with the heavenly one. These parallels suggest the existence of a universal archetype of beings that communicate higher realities to humanity, fulfilling a protective or revealing role. After the Spanish conquest, Christian missionaries identified some of these beings with angels, trying to incorporate or reinterpret local myths in the light of their theology. However, the original stories maintained their own symbolic and ritual richness, where wings, or the ability to fly, illustrated proximity to the divine. This cultural exchange demonstrates how the idea of winged creatures mediating between the spiritual and earthly worlds is not limited to a single tradition, but resonates in the imagination of multiple civilizations. Number 19. Holy angels and Orthodox iconography. In the Orthodox Church, the representation of angels is distinguished by their sobriety and at the same time their majesty. They are usually painted with long robes that emphasize the sacred dimension, in contrast to the more humanized clothing sometimes seen in Western painting. Their large, outstretched wings symbolize the speed with which they can move between heaven and earth to execute divine orders. It is common to see them holding flaming swords, recalling the warrior and protective aspect of these spiritual beings. They also appear with orbs or spheres decorated with crosses, representing Christ's royalty over creation and the role of angels as bearers of heavenly authority. In Orthodox icons, the faces of angels are often painted with a mixture of serenity and firmness. Their large, penetrating eyes suggest a higher intelligence and constant attention to God's will. Likewise, the color palette, in which gold predominates, highlights the divine presence that the angels reflect. Details, such as the arrangement of the feathers and the solemn posture, seek to convey the transcendence of angels, beings perpetually committed to divine praise and the protection of humanity. This iconography not only visually educates the faithful about the angelic nature, but also serves as a bridge to spiritual contemplation, underlining the closeness of the celestial in daily life. Number 18. Contemporary sightings. Accounts of encounters with angels are not limited to antiquity or biblical narratives. Even today, there are those who claim to have seen luminous beings or to have felt their help in times of great danger, such as traffic accidents or serious illness. Some people describe a sudden and miraculous change of circumstances, while others report sensing a radiant figure who protected them from imminent harm. These accounts, often transmitted orally or through testimonies in the press or in books of near-death experiences, continue to fuel faith and curiosity about whether these heavenly presences really exist. Skeptics point out that many of these accounts can be explained by psychological phenomena, such as hallucinations caused by stress or lack of oxygen. However, those who have had these experiences maintain that nothing compares to the feeling of peace, warmth, and security that they associate with angelic intervention. For them, it is not merely an illusion, but an act of divine love that has remained engraved in their memory. These contemporary sightings keep alive the debate about the real nature of angels, exploring whether their presence can be perceived even in a technological and rationalist age. Number 17. Superhuman intelligence. One of the characteristics that the Judeo-Christian tradition usually attributes to angels is their superior intelligence, often described as illuminated by the direct contemplation of divine truth. According to theologians such as Thomas Aquinas, angels know God's plans instantly and deeply, without the limitations of sequential reasoning typical of human beings. This extraordinary mental capacity allows them to act as heavenly counselors, proposing paths of wisdom and protecting people when they are unable to see beyond their immediate circumstances. However, this intelligence is not simply a wealth of information, but a comprehensive understanding of the cosmic order. For this reason, angels can even foresee situations in which an individual is in moral or physical danger, intervening according to the divine will to direct him toward good. In mystical literature, this angelic wisdom is spoken of as a state of constant contemplation, a knowledge that flows from the divine essence and is not clouded by emotions or temptations. Hence, many believers invoke the guidance of angels when faced with momentous decisions, hoping to receive that clarity that only celestial beings possess. Number 16. Angels in medieval dance and music. During the Middle Ages, illuminated manuscripts, frescoes, and even some pieces of sculpture portrayed angels dancing and playing instruments high in heaven. This iconography suggests that heavenly praise was not limited to solemn singing, but also included expressions of joy and harmony, such as circular dancing or the accompaniment of harps, violas, and lyres. This type of scene often appeared in cloisters and churches, reminding the faithful of the promise that, after death, they could access a space where joy never ends. Likewise, medieval music, which frequently sought to reflect divine perfection through polyphonic and choral chants, was inspired by the idea that angels sang eternal melodies. Hence, the sacred repertoire, with its Gregorian chants, aspired to be an earthly echo of the angelic symphony. On certain holidays, such as Christmas or Easter, biblical episodes were dramatized with representations of angels announcing the resurrection or birth of Christ, and these choreographies or musical representations made palpable the idea that the joy of heaven could also invade earth during the climactic moments of the liturgy. Number 15. The angel in the Garden of Eden. In the Genesis account, after Adam and Eve's disobedience, God places a cherub with a flaming sword at the entrance to the Garden of Eden to prevent those who might try to return from entering. This passage underlines the mission of angels as guardians of sacred places and suggests that earthly paradise, once lost, is beyond human reach. The flaming sword symbolizes both divine justice and the inaccessibility of primordial perfection. Biblical commentators have debated for centuries the deeper meaning of this heavenly guardian. Some claim that his presence signals that humanity can no longer appropriate divine gifts without the mediation of grace, while others interpret the angel and his sword as a warning against the arrogance of wanting to regain paradise by one's own means. In any case, the image is powerful. It not only implies the physical closure of a space, but also the spiritual rupture that would demand the subsequent redemptive intervention, according to Christian theology. Thus, this guardian angel embodies both the protection of the sacred and the barrier that separates fallen man from full communion with God. Number 14. The healing powers. The figure of the Archangel Raphael exemplifies the healing aspect that has been attributed to angels within the Judeo-Christian tradition. His name, which in Hebrew means God heals, appears in books such as Tobit, where Raphael accompanies and guides the young Tobit, protecting him from demons and giving him a remedy to cure his father's blindness. This role as protector and heavenly doctor led to many prayers and devotions asking for Raphael's intercession to heal ailments of the body and spirit. The belief in the healing power of angels has also permeated popular spirituality, where they are prayed to not only for physical recovery, but for emotional comfort and psychological healing. Even within contemporary holistic approaches, Raphael's energy is spoken of as a comforting vibration that can restore internal balance. Thus, the image of angels as healers illustrates the compassionate dimension associated with them. Their mission is not limited to delivering messages or fulfilling orders of a warlike nature, but encompasses the restoration of life in its fullest form, returning harmony to the suffering human being. Number 13. The Battle of Saint Michael and Lucifer. According to Judeo-Christian tradition, Lucifer, considered the most beautiful angel, rebelled against God driven by pride. In response, the Archangel Michael led the heavenly hosts to defeat the rebels and expel them from heaven. This battle, described in the Apocalypse, has been interpreted as the archetypal combat between good and evil, with Michael assuming the role of captain of divine loyalty. The most iconic representation of this scene shows the archangel wielding a sword or lance against a winged dragon, an image that has occupied a central place in Christian art throughout the centuries. For many theologians, this battle embodies the purity of obedience to the divine will versus the temptation of self-sufficiency and pride. Michael, whose name means "who is like God," symbolizes humility and the defense of justice, while Lucifer, after his fall, becomes the adversary of humanity. From this founding myth arise various reflections on freedom and responsibility, both of angels and of human beings. Likewise, The constant representation of Michael as the victor reaffirms the hope in the triumph of good and in the protection that humanity has through faithful angels. Number 12. Angels as spiritual guides. In the New Testament, angels appear in key episodes to help and guide the apostles. A notable example is the liberation of Peter from prison, narrated in the Acts of the Apostles, where it is described how an angel enters the cell, makes the chains fall from his hands and leads him out of the place undetected. This direct intervention serves to reinforce the idea that, in divine missions, heavenly messengers are ready to smooth the way for men who have been called to spread the gospel. In later Christian tradition, these episodes are interpreted as showing that angels do not act only in extreme cases of life or death, but also in the spiritual growth of believers. Hence, numerous devotional practices include asking for the assistance of angels to find God's will, discern vocations, or strengthen faith. The image of the angel guiding the apostles reveals the closeness of the divine in the moments of greatest vulnerability, and has become a pillar of trust that many faithful place in heavenly help in times of difficulty or indecision. Number 11. The mystery of the language of angels. In his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, St. Paul mentions the possibility of speaking in human and angelic languages, alluding to the gift of tongues that some members of the Christian community possessed. While a common interpretation associates this reference with the ability to express oneself in unknown languages by natural means, others see in the phrase an allusion to a distinct and mysterious heavenly language, completely inaccessible to human reason. This language of angels has become a theological and spiritual enigma, which opens the door to various speculations. In the Pentecostal and charismatic tradition, it is believed that certain believers can be inspired by the Holy Spirit to pronounce words that do not belong to any earthly language, and some think that this represents the angelic language mentioned by Paul. Meanwhile, in the esoteric realm, angelic alphabets and systems have been developed, such as the Enochian language attributed to John Dee, that claim to reproduce this form of sacred communication. Be that as it may, what is important for the Christian faith is that, even when this gift is available, without love, nothing is worth anything, remembering that the central objective is not to unravel the linguistic mystery, but to live in harmony with the divine will. Number 10. The Angel of Death. The notion of an angel of death is found in multiple cultures and religions, representing the entity in charge of collecting souls at the end of their earthly life. In Islamic tradition, he is known as Azrael, who, according to the Quran and other texts, keeps track of each individual and knows the exact moment when the person must die. His intervention can inspire fear, as it symbolizes the cessation of physical existence, but it also gives hope, as he is seen as a companion who opens the door to eternity and divine judgment. In Judeo-Christian circles, while there is no explicit mention of a single angel of death, there is talk of angelic beings who carry out God's sentence. For example, in the story of the Jewish Passover, when the destroying angel passes through Egypt. For theology, these passages highlight divine sovereignty over life and death, and the concept that death is not the end, but the transition to another stage of existence. In this way, the angel of death, in any of its variants, reveals the sacred dimension of the end of earthly life, embodying both the justice of God and the certainty of the destiny that awaits every human being. Number 9. The presence of the angel of death. In the account of the Exodus, God orders the Israelites to mark the lintels and doorposts of their doors with the blood of a lamb so that the angel of death, passing through Egypt, will distinguish the houses of the chosen people and not take the lives of their firstborn. This episode, known as the First Passover, highlights an essential aspect of divine justice. It does not always act in an abstract or impersonal way, but can use heavenly messengers to execute a specific judgment. Hence the talk of an angel of death, or destroying angel, who punishes those who oppress the people of God. Throughout the history of biblical interpretation, this passage has given rise to reflections on the righteousness of God, who simultaneously shows mercy toward his own and harshness toward the oppressors. For some theologians, the exterminating angel does not represent divine cruelty so much as the consequence of the rejection of God's will, which turns against those who persist in injustice. Thus, the figure of the punishing angel serves the function of reminding us that the divine message entails responsibility and that the Pharaoh's arrogance precipitates the intervention of a celestial being who puts limits on human tyranny. Number 8. Angelic visitors in secret. The letter to the Hebrews, 13:2, invites hospitality, recalling that some, unwittingly, hosted angels. The most cited example is that of Abraham, who met 3 visitors in the oak grove of Mamre and later discovered that they were actually messengers of God. This teaching highlights the ability of angels to assume human appearance and blend in with ordinary people, without displaying, at least at first, obvious supernatural signs. The moral implication that stems from this belief is significant. You never know who might be in need of your help, and every act of kindness can become an opportunity to encounter the divine. In Jewish and Christian tradition, this passage has been extended as a call to humility and respect towards any person, as it could conceal an angelic presence that is observing the compassion of the human being. Thus, the concept of angelic visitors functions as a continuous reminder that heaven can manifest itself through the most everyday forms. Number 7. Marian apparitions and presence of angels. In various Marian apparitions recognized by the Catholic Church, such as those of Lourdes, Fatima, or Guadalupe, testimonies have been documented that indicate the presence of angels accompanying the Virgin. In some cases, visionaries report seeing luminous figures that precede or flank the Marian figure, referring to them as winged beings or radiant spirits. Their mission is interpreted as guarding and preparing the environment so that the Virgin's message is received without obstacles, protected from negative influences or profane curiosities. This phenomenon reinforces the idea that angels not only intervene in ancient biblical episodes, but also have an active role in more recent events that the Church considers divine manifestations. The function of guardianship implies that where there is a sacred encounter between the divine and humanity, angels act as guardians and servants, vigilant so that grace is poured out without interference. However, each Marian apparition has particularities, and the presence of angels around them often evokes the symbolic framework of a heaven that is permanently attentive and close to human history. Number 6. The 7 seals and the angels in the Apocalypse. The Book of Revelation describes a scenario in which the Lamb, symbol of Christ, breaks one by one the 7 seals of a sealed book, unleashing events of great impact on earth. Each released seal triggers the intervention of angels and the appearance of horsemen and various portents. This passage illustrates how, in the apocalyptic conception, the realization of the divine plan for humanity involves the participation of angels, who blow trumpets, pour out bowls, or supervise cataclysms that purify and signal the imminence of a definitive judgment. The symbolism of the seals points to God's absolute control over the course of history, and the angels act as mediators who materialize the stages of that plan. Throughout the chapters, these celestial beings are described as announcing pestilences, wars, or cosmic phenomena, not with arbitrary cruelty, but as part of a process of purification and renewal. For many believers, this narrative, although enigmatic, reinforces the confidence that, despite the calamities, everything remains within the divine will, and the angels are in charge of orchestrating the changes that will lead to the creation of a new heaven and a new earth. Number 5. The angel who wrestled with Jacob. In Genesis, it is reported that Jacob, afraid of meeting his brother Esau, spends the night wrestling with a man until dawn. The nature of this opponent is ambiguous. Some texts and commentators describe him as an angel, while others think he could be God himself. The struggle culminates with Jacob being given the name Israel, which means he who wrestles with God, and with a wound in his hip that leaves him limping as a sign of the encounter. This episode is fascinating because it reveals an unusual facet of contact with the divine. It is not a message of peace or comfort, but an intense struggle in which Jacob refuses to let go of the stranger until he receives a blessing. Various theological interpretations see it as a metaphor for the life of faith, which sometimes involves fighting doubts, guilt, and fears before reaching spiritual maturity. If the being is an angel, how is it possible for a human to withstand a nighttime battle with a heavenly emissary? The most widely shared response suggests that the apparent equality in the struggle is God's way of inviting Jacob, and by extension, all of humanity, to persist in seeking and asking for blessings, even when it seems that all is lost. Number 4. The angelic interpretation of dreams. Genesis shows us Joseph, son of Jacob, interpreting dreams that change the course of Egyptian history, and in the New Testament, Joseph, Mary's husband, receives guidance from an angel in a dream to protect Jesus from Herod's intentions. These experiences reveal that, in the biblical framework, angels can use the dream mind as a channel to instruct, warn, or console. Dreams, then, would not be simple psychological processes, but a space in which the divine can break in a symbolic and direct way. In the Christian and Jewish tradition, the angel in dreams plays the role of an internal messenger, facilitating the understanding of a higher will or anticipating future events. This fits with the perspective that human beings, during sleep, are less distracted by everyday concerns, so their spiritual receptivity increases. For this reason, saints and mystics have taught us to pay attention to those dreams that evoke unusual depth, carefully discerning whether they really come from God or are a mere reflection of the unconscious. In any case, the biblical account emphasizes angelic intervention as a guarantor of the veracity and scope of certain dream revelations. Number 3. Angels guarding sacred relics. In the Middle Ages, there were many legends that told how angels protected relics of great religious value, such as the True Cross, the supposed cross where Jesus died, or the Holy Grail, the cup used at the Last Supper. There was talk of monasteries where monks claimed to see luminescences or hear angelic chants around these objects, interpreting them as signs of divine guardianship. In this way, the idea that angels not only protect people, but also the most powerful symbols of the Christian faith was reinforced. Some stories indicated that, when faced with threats of looting or destruction, an inexplicable glow scared away attackers, or that winged warriors appeared on the city walls defending the relics. Although it is difficult to corroborate such events historically, the persistence of these stories in popular tradition attests to the deep trust in supernatural protection. On a theological level, the belief that relics can carry a special presence of sanctity explains why angels would have a special interest in safeguarding them. That which embodies the memory of sacrifice or divine grace becomes a point of connection between the visible and the invisible, and therefore deserves exceptional protection. Number 2. Wings as a metaphor for the divine. Although the Bible describes some angels with expressions such as wings and multiple faces, especially in the prophetic books, no minute details are given about their actual appearance. Over time, Christian art adopted wings as a distinctive and emblematic feature, probably influenced by Greco-Roman representations of winged deities or genies. The symbolic utility of wings is undeniable. They indicate spiritual lightness, purity, and the ability to move between heaven and earth without physical barriers. Thus, Christian iconography, and later Renaissance iconography, popularized the figure of the winged angel as the visual definition of an ethereal being. This metaphor of the divine extended its influence to multiple fields. Literature, music, and film use the image of the winged angel as a synonym for hope, comfort, and transcendence. Even beyond religion, in cultural expressions there is talk of having wings as a sign of freedom and grace. For many believers, these wings are a visible way of understanding the love of God that reaches out to humanity, uniting the infinite with the finite. Number 1. The great mystery, the pure nature of angelic love. To conclude this account of the most impressive mysteries of angels, the notion that these beings exist solely to love and serve God stands out, reflecting a purity of intention alien to selfishness or vanity. While humans struggle between their own will and the divine, angels dwell in a perpetual state of obedience and devotion. This unconditional love is not passive, but leads them to fulfill missions of all kinds, from announcing miraculous births to waging cosmic battles against evil. The enigma lies in what it would be like to experience reality when one lives in a state of complete donation to the Creator. Do angels have feelings similar to humans, or does their perpetual joy transcend all earthly emotion? How do they balance their role as protectors and messengers with continual reverence for divinity? These questions reflect the metaphysical dimension of angelic love, a love that, by its very perfection, exceeds the limits of human understanding. For many believers, this quality is the key to their admiration for angels. The certainty that, behind each intervention, there is a pure and unconditional gesture that embodies the essence of divine love. Thank you for watching our video. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Give it a like, comment your thoughts, and share this video with your friends and family.